the practice of humility and patience, the Kshanti Paramita. What do you think, Subhuti? Supposing a disciple who has attained the degree of entered the stream, could he make any such arbitrary assertion as, I have entered the stream? Subhuti replied, No, honored of the worlds, because while by that measure of attainment it means that he has entered the holy stream, yet, speaking truly, he has not entered anything, nor has his mind entertained any such arbitrary conception as form, sound, taste, odor, touch, and discrimination. It is because of that degree of attainment that he is entitled to be called a person who has entered the stream. What do you think, Subhuti? Suppose a disciple has attained the degree of one more return. Could he make any such arbitrary assertion as, I have attained the degree of one more return? No, honored of the worlds, because by the degree of one more return it is meant that he is to be reborn but once more. Yet speaking truly, there will be no rebirth either in this world or in any other world. It is because he knows this that he is to be called one who has one more return. What do you think, Subhuti? Suppose a disciple has attained the degree of never to return. Could he hold within his mind any such arbitrary conception as, I have attained the degree of never to return? No, honored of the worlds, because by the degree of never to return it means that he is never to return, yet, speaking truly, one who has attained that degree never cherishes any such arbitrary conception, and for that reason he is entitled to be called one who is never to return. What do you think, Subhuti? Suppose a disciple has attained the degree of arhat, or fully enlightened. Could he entertain within his mind any such arbitrary conception as, I have become an arhat? No, honored of the worlds, because speaking truly, there is no such thing as a fully enlightened one. Should a disciple who has attained such a degree of enlightenment cherish within his mind such an arbitrary conception as, I have become an arhat, he would soon be grasping after such things as his own selfhood, other selves, living beings, and a universal self. O blessed Lord, thou hast said that I have attained the samadhi of non-assertion, and therefore have reached the climax of human attainment, and because of it I am an arhat. If I had cherished within my mind the thought, I am an arhat free from all desire, my Lord could not have declared that Subhuti delights himself in the practice of silence and tranquility. But speaking truly, I have cherished no such arbitrary thought, so my Lord could truly say, Subhuti delights himself in the practice of silence and tranquility. What do you think, Subhuti? When the Tathagata in a previous life was with Dipankara Buddha, did I receive any definite teaching or attain any definite degree of discipline because of which I later became a Buddha? No, honored of the worlds, when Tathagata was a disciple of Buddha Dipankara, speaking truly, he received no definite teaching, nor did he attain any definite excellence. What do you think, Subhuti? Do the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas embellish the Buddha lands to which they go? No, honored of the worlds. And why? Because what the Lord means by the expression embellishment of the Buddha lands is self-contradictory, for Buddha lands thus embellished could no longer be called Buddha lands. Therefore, the expression embellishment of the Buddha lands is merely a figure of speech. The Lord Buddha continued, For this reason, Subhuti, the minds of all bodhisattvas should be purified of all conceptions as relate to seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, and discriminating. They should use the mental faculties spontaneously and naturally, but unconstrained by any preconceptions arising from the senses. Subhuti, supposing a man had a body as large as Mount Sumeru, what do you think? Would his body be counted great? exceedingly great honor of the worlds, because what the Lord Buddha really means by the expression, the greatness of the human body, is not limited by any arbitrary conception whatever, so it can rightly be called great. In what has been said in the foregoing about the third paramita of patience, the Tathagata does not hold in his mind any arbitrary conceptions of the phenomenon of patience. He merely refers to it as the third paramita. And why? Because when, in a previous life, the prince of Kalinga severed the flesh from my limbs and my body, even then I was free from any such ideas as my own self, other selves, living beings, or a universal self. Because if, at the time of my suffering, I had cherished any of these arbitrary ideas, inevitably I would have fallen into impatience and hatred. Besides, Subhuti, I recall that during my 500 previous lives I had used life after life to practice patience and to look upon my life humbly as though it was some saintly being called upon to suffer humility. Even then, my mind was free from any such arbitrary conceptions of phenomena as my own self, other selves, living beings, and a universal self. The Blessed One resumed, Subhuti, should there be among the faithful disciples some who have not yet matured their karma, and who must first suffer the natural retribution from sins committed in some previous life by being degraded to a lower domain of existence, and should they earnestly and faithfully observe and study this scripture, and because of it be despised and persecuted by the people, their karma will immediately be matured, and they will at once attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Subhuti, I recall that long ago, numberless Samsakyakas of Kalpas, before the advent of Dipankara Buddha, without any fault having been committed by me, I served and worshipped with offerings and received spiritual instruction and discipline from 804,000 myriads of Buddhas. Yet, in the far-off ages of the Kalpa of this world, if a disciple shall faithfully observe, study, and put into practice the teachings of this scripture, the blessing that he or she by doing so will gain will far exceed that acquired by me during those long years of service and discipline under those many Buddhas. Yes, it will exceed my poor merit in comparison as 10 myriads to 1, yet even more, as uncounted myriads to 1. The Lord Buddha continued, Subhuti, in contrast to what I have said as to the inestimable blessing that will come to the earnest disciples who observe and study and practice this scripture in that far-off last kalpa, I must tell you that probably there will be some disciples who, upon hearing this scripture, will become bewildered in their minds and will not believe it. Subhuti, you should remember that just as the Dharma of this scripture transcends human thought, so the effect and final result of studying it and putting it into practice is also inscrutable.